I'm gonna try and make some elves. I'm gonna try and do some cool kind of stuff.
Hello, this is Sean from Complete Magic, and today's deep deck dive is on Post Malone's Lathril, Blade of the Elves. Now, for those of you that haven't heard of Post, and I'm not sure how, he is a mega superstar with tons of hit songs, and including 4 #1 hits on the Billboard Top 100. But he's also a giant Magic the Gathering fan, so much so that he's invested heavily into single cards, including the 1/1 ring and a Black Lotus signed by Chris Rush. Now, Post has a lot of commander decks, but today we're looking at Lathril, Blade of the Elves, and that's his tribal elf commander. And she has an interesting ability where if you tap 10 untapped elves you control, each opponent loses 10 life and you gain 10 life. This ability is why Lathril is one of the most popular elf commanders, because she can go around having to attack or having to rely on overrun abilities. Now, that said, after you ramp, draw, and play Lathril, you still want to hit with Lathril, so you do want to attack, and you still can use Overrun and go over the top. And it all starts with rampant rocks. Even elves want to go fast, and we got 6 of them in here. Most of them are going to be ramp cards with the single rock, a Soul Ring, and then we'll get straight into the Mana Dorks, which elves always love. And the 11 Dorks that Post has in his deck are really what we want. They count as elves, so they help activate Heritage Druid and some other cards that rely on elf count, like Lathril's ability, but they also just help us play really fast. We need these to activate the elf ball components, and Sylvava and Marwyn really help us ramp into anything that we could ever want to play. Now, stalling out or getting slapped with the board wipe is really what we want to avoid, so we need to draw and draw a lot. We got 8 draw cards in here, including Beast Whisperer, a Collective Unconscious, Pact of the Serpent, and the Great Hinge. We're counting the draw ability over the ramp ability there, but you get the point. We need to draw a bunch of cards and keep our hands filled. Next up, we need to tutor for some answers. Now, it doesn't have a ton of tutors, just 3, but there are 3 powerful tutors in Demonic Tutor, Elvish Harbinger, and Vampiric Tutor. And what are you tutoring for if it's not answers to other threats? Well, your Wincons, and it has 5 of those, at least, not counting Lathril. And the Craterhoof, Finale, Triumph, Thunderfoot, and Azuri, they're all well-known Wincons for elf decks, and they're powerhouses here. And we're going to get to the point where you can win with a few utility cards, just 3. Doubling Season makes a lot of sense since we have a token generator in the command zone, but then Freyalise and Tyvar Kell, both just are kind of toolkit cards. They can do what you need them to do when you need them to do it. And Post has never been one to sleep on interaction, and he's got plenty of removal in here to prove it, with 7 removal cards, including Assassin's Trophy, Kindred Dominance, Song of the Dryads, and he's going to use these to pave the way so he can hit whatever Wincon he's targeting. Speaking of removal, we'll also want to protect our creatures, because board wipes and targeted removal are the bane of elf decks. Eldrazi Monument really shines here because it protects your creatures and it helps you go over the top of any defenses. To fill in part of the strategy, Post is going to make the elves get bigger. They're going to hit the gym and they're going to end up swole because these cards are just going to make them giant and able to get through. So +1/+1 counters or just Lord effects, all of these 8 cards that help elves go big are going to help them hammer the other players at the table. And of course, what's going big without going wide? We also have 8 cards in here that are token generators. So not just in the command zone, we're also just going to be pumping out tokens whenever we feel like it. And Post jams 35 lands in here, which is pretty good because it's got a low curve and plenty of ramp and draw. So the Wirewood Lodge is one of the standouts for any elf deck, especially if your command zone is looking to tap to do damage. He also has the Shrine to Nyx, Overgrown Tomb, Path of Ancestry, just a lot of cards in here, and he even has Karn's Bastion for Proliferate. Now, Post Malone spent $2 million on that 1/1 ring, so it's no surprise he has a Bayou in here. It's going to be one of the best lands to have in your opening hand. After that, he goes into Snow-Covered, 9 Snow-Covered Forests, 3 Snow-Covered Swamps, and then he has non-Snow-Covered. I'm not sure why he has a distinction between the two. But they're both in here, 9 regular forests and 3 regular swamps. Enough about the land base, let's get on to the spicy cards, and my pick is Elvish Harbinger. It tutors any elf card as soon as it comes into play, and it's a dork to boot. Evan's spiciest pick is one that he likes in a lot of decks, Return of the Wild Speaker. This thing can draw you a ton of cards if you find yourself in a bind and having to get rid of elves anyways, but it also can pump all your elves too, so it's a great little toolkit card. But Post's cheapest commander deck isn't all just spice. There's some things that aren't that nice. I'd first cut Crown of Skimfar. This thing is just pump without any evasion, so it's not really going to help Lathril hit. It might make her really big, but it's not going to help her get through, which is what she actually needs to do. Evan, he would cut Immaculate Magistrate. This card puts a +1/+1 counter on target creature for each elf you control, so it'll help another person, a single card, get big, but it won't help them get through. So it's the same similar type of problem. And if you were to cut those cards, we could upgrade them into things like Growing Rights of Itlamok. This thing flips into a Gaia's Cradle, pretty close to it, and it's a great fit for an elf deck. Evan's suggestion is Heroic Intervention. We're a little low on protection cards, especially for elves. We need to keep our elves on the board, and Heroic Intervention will help that happen. Thanks for watching our breakdown of Post Malone's Lathril Blade of the Elves deck, and let us know any other decks that you'd like us to dissect, and we'll put them up here in our deep deck dive segments that we're going to keep on rolling. So thanks to everybody for watching. We'll see you next time. Oh yeah, and please subscribe.